Okay, so good day everyone. We will be now discussing the first chapter for our finals. No? This is now the chapter 3, consumers in their social and cultural setting. So part 1 would be the influence of culture on consumer behavior. So the study of culture is a tough task since its major emphasis is on the widest component of social behavior in a group of people or a whole civilization. In contrast to psychologists, who is largely concerned with the study of individual behavior as discussed in our last chapter, or the sociologist who is concerned with the study of groups, the anthropologist is primarily interested in identifying the basic fabric of society itself, the whole group, the whole population. Okay? And this specific characteristic of the whole population is what we call as the culture. So let us define what is culture. Okay? Alright, because culture is a broad and pervasive, it usually requires a close look at the whole society, including things like their language, their collective knowledge, laws, religions, food customs, music, art, technology, work patterns, products, and other things that makes a society unique. That is what culture is. In a sense, culture is a society's personality as a whole. For this reason, it is not easy to define its boundaries. No? Using Cordillera as an example, we can already identify the Benguet culture, the Cordilleran culture. And we will try to look at it. This is now the collective personalities of people belonging to a society dun sa Benguet. Diba? That's why we have the culture. So when people in a certain society learn about a certain set of beliefs and values which everyone shares, they follow those beliefs and values, and when they buy things and when they purchase things, they have similar qualities. This is now what we call as culture. For example, yung mga people from the Cordillerans, we have the same buying patterns because we share the same culture as compared to other parts of the Philippines. In Visayas and in Mindanao, we have different buying patterns because of the beliefs and values in our culture. So beliefs are made up of a lot of mental or verbal statements that show how well someone knows and thinks about something. Especially, let's use the example yung purchasing patterns on how we spend our money. Di ba sabi nila in Ilocos region, sabi nila mga tao daw doon is kuripot. They do not want to spend their money. But ang tawag sa kanila is not kuripot but matipid. Di ba yung mga Ilocos region is matipid because that region, the culture in that region, they have the same way on how they spend their money. That is their beliefs. Again, verbal statements that show how well someone knows and thinks about something. Again, we are talking about culture. This is a collective belief, collective knowledge about something. Okay? Even when we talk about religion, di ba? When we talk about religion, di ba, we have different beliefs. For example, a certain religion does not believe in eating pork, okay? Or does not believe in eating blood. As for other religions naman, okay lang na kumain yung type of food na yun. These are unique beliefs among different culture. Values are also beliefs. However, values differ from the beliefs because they must meet the following criteria. So we are now talking about values. Values, they are very few in number. Values are also used as a guide. They are guide for how to behave and in a way that is culturally acceptable. Again, we have different values. Again, going back to our example kanina na religion, diba? A certain religion, example lang, okay lang, it's okay to have more than one wife. Asawa na babae. As for another religion, di ba? Dapat isa lang. Kasi having two or more partners could be unethical or uh, a, uh, salungat sa values nila. Okay, another values, they are long-lasting and hard to change. Yan. Kasi they are set as a guideline, no? So it should be for a long term. They are not tied to specific things or situations, and they are accepted by most people in the society. Now, in the Philippines, going back dun sa religion, since majority of the Filipinos belong to the Christian community, no? Christian religion, basic pa lang, di ba, we have to follow yung 10 Commandments. Those are the values, no, na set sa ating culture. Ayan, so we must follow the 10 Commandments. Ayan, it is widely accepted, no, in most Filipino people. Ayan. So the way a person thinks about things such as values and beliefs can change how he or she thinks about things or how he or she acts in a certain situation too. And syempre sa spending patterns din. For example, fashion. Okay? What type of fashion is acceptable here in the Philippines? Di ba? Maybe we can tell na 10 years ago or 20 years ago, our fashion is still nandun sa conservative side. Especially for female na dapat balot. No? Ayan, no? For example, these two. Ayan, Christian or Muslim, dapat balot. Kasi that is what is accepted, no, by culture. But nowadays, if you notice na the fashion, no, ang mga Pinay fashion is now being more liberated, no, less conservative. Na they are trying to adapt na rin the fashion of other countries, the other cultures. So okay na po sa kanila yung medyo revealing. Ayan. For example, ito. This is now the fashion na nakikita natin from the internet. And since there's already a change, no, in the perception of belief, ang hirap na rin minsan, no, na sabihin natin, to judge yung fashion. Kasi dito, di ba, it should be long lasting, pero it doesn't mean that it can be forever. No? There's always a change. By now, I guess we are more accepting, no, sa mga fashion na medyo revealing. Not totally 100% accepted, pero still, we can see na the increase of this type of fashion is nakikita na natin. No? To the point that if we try to judge, no, these people from wearing this type of clothes, based on our perception, no, based on our beliefs and values, minsan naka-counter tayo. Diba? For example, I had seen this experience, no. Filipino people, again, we are conservative when it comes to fashion. Ayan. Every time someone will judge, no, a person for having revealing clothes, parang bumabaliktad na we are not accepting na medyo mababaw ang ating pananaw kasi fashion is fashion. You get what I mean, di ba? There's already a shift on our beliefs and perception. Ayan. Okay, customs are visible way of behaving that people in a certain culture think of good or acceptable ways to act in certain situations. So what are customs? Customs are things that people do on a daily or regular basis. For example pa lang, 'di ba, when we go to church, what is the customs na ginagawa natin? 'Di ba? Before we enter the church, 'di ba, pumupunta tayo dun sa holy water to dip our fingers, tas magsa-sign of the cross tayo. Before we sit sa loob, di ba, we do the act of genuflecting. We genuflect, yung luluhod muna bago we sit. These are customs naman. Through beliefs and values are important guides for behavior. Customs are common and acceptable ways to act. An understanding of different cultures can help marketers predict how people will react to their products. Ano pa ba ang custom na ginagawa natin in the Philippines? No? Yung pagmamano. Yan, pagmamano natin sa elders, sa ating nanay, tatay, lola, and lola. Diba? That is already a custom. What else? Yung pagsasabi ng po, opo, or ho, oho sa mga nakakatanda, these are customs. Diba? These are the acceptable ways to act. Diba? Kaya kung may nakita tayong bata minsan na, let's say, tinawag niya first name basis yung kanyang nanay. Diba? Sasabihin natin, ano ba yung bata na yan? Di ba? Parang lumalaki, humahaba na yung sungay, etc. Kasi it is not acceptable in our culture to do that. That's why we always need to respect our elders. That is our customs. Okay? Ayan. So, the invisible hand of culture. And when we say invisible hand, this is something na there is no law, no written law about this concept. Yet, we are still following it. Okay? So, the effect of culture is so natural and automatic that people often don't think about it. Diba? It's already natural. Going back to my example earlier, yung pagmano sa ating elders, it is something automatic. Diba sometimes na hindi natin pinaplano? Excuse me. Hindi natin pinaplano ang pagmamano. It just happens. It is something automatic. Kasi it's part of our culture. It's part of our customs. Often, it is only when we meet people from different cultures that we realize how culture has shaped on our own behavior. And this is very true. If you have mingled with other people from other cultures and you have seen yung kanilang customs, papansin mo rin pa, yun pala yung difference. No? This is my practices, our practices. This is the practice of other cultures. Okay? Ayan. An example dito from country to country pa lang. No? This is something na funny. No? In Japan, yan, when it comes to food, okay? When it comes to food, yung soup. Ayan. I'm sure alam niyo rin tong knowledge na to. Di ba? Pag magsaslurp ka ng soup, dapat yung malakas. It is way of saying that the food is delicious. Kanyari, yung maingay, ganyan. Di ba? In other countries naman, such in Europe, pag ginawa mo yung same act, nung pag-slurp ng soup na napakaingay, it is something na very disrespectful, especially in Europe. That's why when you drink yung soup, dapat quiet lang. You see now the difference in culture. Ayan. Some European countries, ang pag-kiss ng lips to lips, male, female, or male to male is something normal. Kasi it's a gesture. It is the same in the Philippines. Diba, when we meet someone in public, diba, uy, hi, diba, you say hi. It's the same act. No? It's the same gesture. Yet, on how we do it, it's very different. No? When we see yung culture na sinabi ko in Europe, in Germany, na nagkikiss sila, lips to lips, di ba? Parang in the Philippines, that is not accepted. Okay? You see now the difference in cultures from different geographic locations. Ayan. We now can realize the uniqueness of our culture once we see or experience the culture of others. Okay? The way that people act and think about themselves and the world around them is influenced by cultural framework they bring to the experience. Each person sees the world through his or her own cultural lens. Okay? Culture can exist and sometimes show itself in different ways to different people. Na if we are a Filipino na pupunta sa other countries, okay, pupunta tayo sa ibang countries, may tinatawag tayo term na culture shock. Diba? Minsan nagugulat tayo because of the way they do things in other countries, in other culture. Kasi we are now comparing yung culture nila from our culture. In the Philippines, we do things this way. Okay? Punta ko sa ibang country, iba rin ang gawa nila. So, we are now trying to compare. We see the world through our own cultural lens. That's why we always compare. Those interested in consumer behavior would most be concerned with three levels of subjective culture. First is the supranational level. Supranational level reflects the underlying dimensions of the culture that impact multiple cultures of different societies. Yan, pangkalahatan. While for the national level, such as shared core values, customs, personalities, and predispositional factors that tend to capture the essence of the national character of the citizens of a particular country. For example, Philippines. Okay? Iano natin to. Sa supranational, let's say Asia. Ayan. Sa national level factors, we have the Philippines. How about the group level factors? Are concerned with various subdivisions of a country or society. They might include subcultures, differences, and membership and reference group difference. For example, Cordilleran people from Ilocos, ayan, people from Visayas, people from Mindanao. These are different group level factors. Again, that's why linagay ko siya dito sa the invisible hand of culture kasi these are things na it is not written by law. Yet, since this is part of culture, we are still doing it. So, can culture satisfy needs? Okay? Culture exists to satisfy the needs of people within a society. Kasi different culture have different needs. It offers order, direction, and guidance in all phases of human problem solving by providing tried and true methods from the past years of satisfying physiological, personal, and social needs. Similarly, culture also provides insights as to suitable dress for a specific occasion. Yung sinabi ko kanina, di ba? We have a cultural perception on what is the right thing to wear during different occasions. For example, when you go sa bahay, culture natin na Philippines, di ba? Meron tayong tinatawag na pambahay. Di ba? Usually naman ang pambahay natin, these are comfortable clothes. Ayan. So, okay lang kahit naka-t-shirt, naka-shorts, or sa mga babae, di ba? Okay lang sa inyo yung naka-short shorts, yung medyo maiksing, sa bahay lang naman. Crop top, for example. The point is to be comfortable kasi nasa bahay lang naman. But how about when we go to school? What is the right dress code for school? Siyempre, for some schools, they have the uniforms. If you are enrolled in a school na may uniform, siyempre you have to follow the days on what uniform to wear. Maybe Monday to Wednesday, kailangan nyo mag-polo. Thursday naman, you have to wear your t-shirt. And Friday naman, you have to wear your sports attire. Ayan. What to wear to work? Siyempre, depende rin on the line of work. If you are working on an office, siyempre, dapat yung corporate attire. Diba? Naka-coat, naka-necktie, naka-polo. What if naman ikaw ay nag-work sa food industry? Diba? You have the proper dress code sa kitchen. Yan, yung chef jacket, yung hairnet, etc. How about sa church? Siyempre, for church, we must wear conservative clothes. Pupunta ka ba doon ng nakikita na lahat sa katawan mo? Of course not, diba? What to wear at the fast food restaurant? Kung papasyal ka lang, syempre meron tayo yung pang-turista. Pero when you go to a high class or a 5-star restaurant, ayan, diba, you have to wear formal. Ayan. Or a movie. Ayan, or a movie. Kung same din, kung papasyal-pasyal ka lang, you have yung pampasyal na clothes. Okay? Again, culture dictates on what to wear during different occasions. Okay? Cultural beliefs, values, and customs continue to be followed as long as they yield satisfaction. In the cultural context, when a product is no longer acceptable because its related value or customs does not adequately satisfy human needs, it must be modified. Culture gradually evolves to meet the needs of the society. This is something na medyo weird na nakikita ko sa Facebook Marketplace. I'm sure lahat naman tayo dito are adult, so it's okay to talk about this topic. Kasi Philippine culture dictates ang pagbenta ng mga sex-related items. Ayan. Yung mga sex-pleasure-related items. Siyempre, that is not acceptable. Hindi mo yan pwede ibenta, for example, sa Session in Bloom. Di ba, may isa kang stall doon na yun ang mga binibenta mo. Siyempre, may mga dumadaan na bata doon. That is not accepted in our culture. But if you try to search yung Google Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, kasi this is something na medyo nakakabahala. Minsan nakikita nyo yung mga yun, yung mga ganun na types of products. And sometimes I'm thinking kung nafi-filter ba yun sa kids, kasi yung mga ito rin, napasensyahan na po sa mga online sellers, lantaran na rin sila magbenta, wala nang pakialam kung sinong makikita. That is not acceptable in our culture. Now, only problem is Facebook. It's really hard to control. Again, these cultures, usually we do not have written policies and laws about these things. And how do we control those sellers na yun na medyo nabubura ang kanilang values and customs, no? Anyway, and something na we to think about then. So how culture is learned? How is culture learned? I think that is the right grammar. At an early age, we begin to acquire from our social environment a set of beliefs, values, and customs that make up our culture. And sino ba usually ang nagtuturo nito? Di ba? The first group of people that will impart the culture to children is always the family. Okay? For children, the learning of these acceptable cultural values and customs is reinforced by the process of playing with toys. Okay? As children play, they act out and rehearse important cultural lessons and situations. Usually, yung mga bata, di ba, ginagaya nila yung nakikita nila from their parents. Yan, through their toys. Sino yung may mga kapakapatid sa inyo siguro? Pag naglalaro sila, ano yung mga usually nilalaro nila? They reenact what they see from their parents. This is something true. I have experienced this. Kapitbahay namin, ayan, lagi nag-aaway yung mother and father. Then, ririnig namin, naglalaro yung mga anak, reenact nila yung away ng mother and father. That is something they learn through observation. Nakakatawa nga kasi meron yung babae na bata, meron siyang kalaro na lalaki. Ang linyahan niya is, lasing ka na naman. Wala ka na naman pinapakain sa amin. Nasaan na yung papakain mo sa amin, etc. Nakakatuwa na nakakaawa. Kasi they are reenacting what they see from their parents. Okay? That's why as parents, syempre for you guys, if you are parents of the future, ayan, what we teach our children is syempre yung tamang values din. Ayan. Kasi they learn from observation din. So we act what we teach. So there are 3 distinct forms of learning. Number 1 is formal learning. Adults and older siblings teach a young family member how to behave. Diba? Sinasabihan natin, pag nakita mo si lolo, lola, lagi kang magmamano. Lagi kang magbibigay pugay. Ayan. Something we teach them verbally. Informal learning naman, a child learns primarily by imitating the behavior of selected others. Ayan, reenactment. They imitate what they see. Okay? So sabi nga nila, the children is the reflection of their parents. Kasi kung ano yung nakikita nila sa parents, syempre yun din ang gagawin nila. That's why we have to be very, very careful on what we do as parents then. And last, we have the technical learning. Teachers instruct the child in an educational environment as to what, how, and why it should be done. Okay? Saan nila matututunan to? Siyempre sa school. And it is very challenging nowadays na for the past 2 years that we are doing online class. Kasi iba talaga ang matututunan ng bata when nandun siya sa school environment. Diba? With the presence of the teacher and the presence of classmates. That is very important in learning. A group of people learning together. And I agree, and I think you agree, no? Even sa college, tama yun. It is better na nasa school tayo. Mas madali pong mag-aral pang nasa school. Kasi that is the right environment for learning. And I will say this, no? I'm not sure if you will agree. Ang bahay po, most of the time, hindi po yan conducive for learning. Bukod sa maraming temptations na, for example, if you have games, di ba? Or meron malagi na dyan si Facebook, daming distractions, diba? Nandyan yung kama, yung pinaka number 1 na kalaban natin, ang sarap humiga. And sometimes, sabihin na rin natin, yung parents is maraming sinasabi or maraming inuutos. Okay? It is not conducive for learning. Okay? Advertising and marketing communications can also influence all 3 types of cultural learning. It most influences informal learning by providing models of behavior to imitate. This is especially true for visible or conspicuous products that are evaluated in public settings where peer influence is likely to play an important role. The repetition of advertising messages create and reinforces cultural beliefs and values. And this is very true. Okay? Especially in the Philippine culture na we are spending our everyday lives, no, let's say half or three-fourths or one-third ng buhay natin na nanonood sa TV or nanonood sa internet. Ayan. And again, what we see from this media, it shapes our culture. Okay, dito ako medyo nabahala din, no. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, okay pa ang Filipino culture. But recently, ano yung mga napapanood natin sa television or sa internet? It's all about kabit-kabit. Ayan, di ba, yung mga premarital sex, yung mga agawan ng asawa, etc. We know that this is something wrong. Pero ito yung problema kasi sa advertising and marketing communications. Pag paulit-ulit na na-expose tayo on this type of information, yung ating perception of what is right and what is wrong is numinipis. Dati alam natin that this action is wrong. Nowadays, parang nagiging okay lang kung gawin itong mga bagay na to. Okay? So, advertising and marketing really plays a big part in our culture. Okay? Even if kanina 'di ba yung children they learn by reenacting. I think this also applies no to adults. Kung ginagaya natin yung mga nakikita natin sa media, sometimes it is something na inisip natin na normal lang. Diba? Ginagawa naman ng lahat eh. So I guess this is something normal. Okay? Nakikita nyo na yung role ng media sa atin. Media and social media din. Ayan. Cultural meanings moves from culturally constituted world to consumer goods and from there to the individual consumers by means of various consumption-related vehicles. For example, advertising or observing or imitating others' behavior. Ayan. And that's it. That is part 1 of our chapter 3. And this is the first topic, no? So, back to normal tayo ulit. I will be posting these videos no every Tuesday. By the way, no, yung I have posted now your final requirement no for consumer behavior. Let me just discuss that since nandito naman na tayo. Ayan. Oops. Let me just open. Nasa Google Classroom. Ayan, you check your Google Classroom, nandun yung ating instructions at the same time yung rubrics natin. Alright, so ito, pinost ko na. The deadline naman natin dito is matagal pa. It's May 9, pero it's good that you start early, no? Kasi medyo mabigat tong project na to. So, I am requiring you to do a video advertisement as discussed no, in our prelims. So, your final requirement is to create a video advertisement of a product or service concept of your choice. Now, the product should be a solution to an existing problem of the target consumers. And our target consumers is from the Cordillera region. So, guidelines natin, the video advertisement should only be around 3 to 5 minutes. Target customers natin should be identified. The problem also should be identified. So, you try to think of a problem na pinagdadaanan ngayon ng Cordilleran people. Then, you now provide a product or service concept that will be a solution to that problem. Okay? Ngayon may nagtatanong siguro sa inyo, sir, should it be realistic? It doesn't need to be realistic, no? Siyempre, it's only a concept. Ayan. Now you have 100% full creative freedom no, in creating your video. As much as possible, make it entertaining, funny, and informative. If you remember, diba, nung past months, I have given you the link to Filmora Wondershare, no? A free, not free, a crack version of that app. So you can use that in creating your advertisement. This is now the final requirement for the course. So please make effort din no, sa inyong outputs. Okay? The points is 100. I have also attached no, the rubrics. Ayan. This is my rubrics, no? Ito ang way on how I will score your output. So make sure to review this. Okay? So that's it. Make sure to read and do the project, and I will see you on the next chapter. Okay? Goodbye.